So, you've been sitting on your couch or maybe at work watching your favorite YouTube trucker or trucker on YouTube, and you've decided that you're just crazy enough to come out here and join us. What next? Well, the first thing is you need to actually learn how to drive a truck. And before you can hop in a truck and learn how to physically drive the truck, you need to learn the rules, the regulations, and everything you need to know to get your permit. And that will permit you to learn how to drive the truck. So, not everybody, a lot of people have asked me to put out a video on how to get your CDL. And I get a lot of emails about this. I know other YouTube truckers and truckers on YouTube have made their version of this video, and I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but since I've gotten a request, I will give you the tiny house dreaming version of how to get your CDL. So what you want to do is hop in your car, get on your bike, catch the bus, ride your horse down to your local Department of Motor Vehicles and ask the lovely people there to give you a copy of the CDL handbook, which is free. That handbook is not pretty thick, maybe thick, depending on what your thoughts on thickness is, but it's thick enough where it can be intimidating. So what I would recommend you do, and you can also download the CDL handbook. Most states have it available for download on the DMV website for your state, obviously, or whatever state you're going to be taking your permit in. We'll get to that later. But it's kind of hard because it's so many pages and broken up into certain sections. It's a bit hard to follow when you're trying to look at it on your device or your tablet. So I would definitely recommend getting the paper copy of it so you can actually flip the pages. And yeah, so, and that's kind of hard to follow still because you'll read through it and you know how to read, you can read the words. I mean, they're not talking any foreign language or anything, so you'll be able to read the words on the page. But if you're anything like me, you might not really comprehend what you're reading, which makes it a bit daunting to like keep going from section to section or chapter to chapter and reading things where you clearly know the words that you're reading, but you're like, what are they talking about? Because if you're anything like me, you didn't come from any type of trucking background where you know the ins and outs and the parts and the names of things on the truck. So as I was trying to learn from the very beginning, I started with the handbook, but I was just reading and like I wasn't retaining a lot of it and I wasn't even comprehending a lot of it, and I'm consider myself a pretty smart cookie. So in what really helped me, and this is what I suggest to anybody who is beginning their journey of studying to get your permit, is in conjunction with the handbook, because you do want to have your handbook you know, with you, although you can use these apps that I'm about to tell you about. You can use them without ever touching or picking up a handbook, and if you study well, you can still pass the permit test. However, I still recommend getting that DMV commercial driver's license handbook, just to have it, you have something tangible in your hand that you can turn and look at, refer back to. Most of the states that I've seen have sections have a little section at the end of each section that they have in the book where they ask like maybe 5 to 10 questions that pertain to the section you've just read. So that comes kind of handy because you can physically write in your answer, flip back to the section, see what, you know, it's just nice to have that book in your hand. But I also, regardless if you have the book or not, I suggest that you download, there's 2 apps. Now, if you're like me and you're an overdoer, you're going to do both of them. But from my opinion, they're both really similar. So if you really were only partial to doing one, that should get you by. But if you're going by my suggestion, I would suggest that you use both apps. One of them is called DMV Genie, and I'm leaving this space up here because as I'm talking, I'll like throw up different screenshots to kind of help guide you, or so you have something visual to look at when you're trying to go back and download or research whatever I'm talking about. So the first one is DMV Genie, and the second one is CDL Prep. Now, and I will also try to take a screenshot of what the app looks like, but both of these apps work exactly the same. When you download it to your phone, and I believe they're available, I have an Android, so I know that they're both available on the Android App Store, or the Google Play Store, I think it's called. But I believe that they are both available on the Apple Store or iTunes Store. I'm not really sure what Apple calls their store, but you know what I'm talking about. So once you download those apps to your phone, or the app that you choose to your phone, it's gonna ask you to sign in, and you just like use your email and pick a password. And then the next step is you pick the state that you're going to be studying from. So you want to pick your state, and then it kind of takes you into this page that I will put up here that's broken up into sections, and it's general knowledge, and then which covers all the general knowledge that you need to know. Everybody needs to be studying that part of it. And then it's broken down into the endorsements that you might want to add to your license. Now, my opinion is, at the very least, you want to get the tanker endorsement. If you're trying to come out here and drive like a dry van or a reefer truck, which is a refrigerated version of a dry van, you want to get your tanker endorsement, and I highly suggest you get your hazmat endorsement. And if you want to kind of be like me, because you're already studying, you're already reading the books, I went ahead and just studied all the endorsements. So I would recommend that to you guys, except for, unless you have the availability to test in a bus, you don't need to study the passenger endorsement. Now, I went ahead, I didn't know this, so I went ahead and studied the passenger and took that endorsement as well when I went to get my permit. But little did I know, when I actually went to get, like, I got through school and I got my my CDL test, and it showed my score that I passed and got my CDL in Utah. And I went back to California and handed it in, and they asked, okay, so when are you going to test in a bus, a passenger vehicle, which is like a school bus or a Greyhound type bus? And I was like, huh? And so the lady explained it to me that in order for this endorsement to go on your license, you need to actually test out in a passenger vehicle, which a truck doesn't qualify as a passenger vehicle. This would be something like I just said, a school bus or Greyhound, or something that you're carrying passengers along with you, and not just like a co-driver. I mean, like multiple passengers in the vehicle that you're testing. So if you want to save yourself a little extra unsteadiness, then just pass up the passenger, unless you have a way to actually take a test in a school bus or a passenger bus, you know, aside from your trucking license. Then go ahead and study for that endorsement as well. But I highly recommend and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, I don't have any notes or anything in front of me, I'm just going off the top of my head, so bear with me. But the tanker, because if you're driving reefer or dry van or any type of box truck, the chances at some point you're going to get a load with liquid, whether it's big barrels of liquid that maybe you're moving something like oil for tires or something, or you might get like a Coca-Cola load or a Gatorade load or something that has liquid. So it is definitely, I think most companies, at least the starter companies, want you to have your tanker, and it's good to have it just so you can kind of understand how the surge works, which is the liquid sloshing back and forth. Whether it's in a big barrel or it's in little bottles, it's still liquid movement. So that, if anybody's wondering, like, I'm not going to be driving a tanker or I'm not going to be hauling gas, that's still why a lot of the companies want you to have your tanker endorsement, is for that reason, because you still might haul liquid. It just might not be in a tanker form or, you know, in that type of truck. And hazmat is always good to have, because a lot of these, just to make yourself more versatile and to save you from having, once you like complete your first year with the starter company, if that's the way you choose to go, which I think most people that watch this, that is the way that you're wanting to go. A lot of companies, if you decide to, like, say with me, I drive for Prime, my year is up. If I want to leave Prime and like go to maybe a smaller company or something, a lot of them ask that you have your hazmat permit. So that's, I mean, your hazmat endorsement, not permit, endorsement. So that's why I say to just go ahead and get it out of the way when you're studying for everything. Kind of include that into your studies. So far we have general knowledge, we have tanker, and we have hazmat. There's doubles and triples, which I have that endorsement on my license. And if you ever are driving down the freeway, and I see this a lot with like UPS, XPO, FedEx, where they have the truck with the trailer, and then there's another trailer. And in some states, because not all states it's legal to drive triples, but some states have a third trailer. So if you're interested in driving that type of vehicle with multiple trailers attached to your truck, that would be what the doubles and triples endorsement is for. Like I said, I did take that just because I was studying everything. Any endorsement that I was able to take, I studied and I took it, and I passed it. But I, being out here, don't actually think I would ever want to drive doubles or triples, but I have that endorsement in case that's something I decide to do at some point. So if you want to, and it's, well, I'll get to that in a minute. So if you want to add that along too, since you're studying already, it's a short section in the handbook, so go ahead and add that too. I'm trying to think of what other endorsement. There's like the air brake, which is not really an endorsement. And once you get in a truck, because most of these newer trucks, and when I mean newer, I think like 1970 something and newer. So most trucks you'll get into have air brakes. Some of them use spring brakes, but I haven't actually ran into anybody that I've talked to that had a truck with spring brakes. So you're, for the most part, going to be driving a truck with air brakes. So that's going to be inclusive when you go to take your actual behind the wheel CDL test. The air brakes is going to be part of that. So you do want to study that, and you want that endorsement. I don't even think it's really an endorsement. I don't know why they didn't just add that in with general knowledge, but at least in California where I studied at, in our handbook, and we had a separate little test. It was really short about air brakes, and it was separate from the general knowledge. So definitely, if your state separates them, study. And I'm starting to shiver because it's starting to get cold, sorry. But if your state separates them, make sure that you're studying the air brakes and you have that down packed. And I would just like throw that, don't even have that be an option. Do I want to study? Don't I? Study for your air brakes. And I believe that is all as far as endorsements. I'm gonna have to look it up, and if I'm wrong and there's some extra ones, I'll add them here, but I think that that's all by memory. And so you want to start studying. Like I said, the app has it separated by like general knowledge, hazmat, tanker, doubles and triples, air brakes. Like they have each section, and what it is it's multiple choice. So when you first start studying, you're not gonna know, well, unless you know trucks, the same as when you're reading a book. Like it's gonna be foreign to you. The questions in the app are gonna be like, some of them are gonna be where if you've driven a car long enough, you kind of know. Like some of the questions are, what does this sign mean? I mean, even in a car, you kind of know what certain signs mean. So some of them you'll know. Some of them you might not have ever been asked the question, but it's given the answers, like the multiple choice, they usually give you 3 or 4 options to pick. It'll be kind of common sense, so you'll pass those. And other ones you will be like, what in the heck are they talking about? And that's okay. What you want to do is just, when you first download the app and you start taking the test in the beginning, already be prepared that you're going to get a low score and you're going to miss a lot. So what you want to do as you are going through is you want to just kind of use common sense and use the knowledge you already know from driving a car and start picking answers. When you pick the right answer, it'll tell you, woohoo, you picked the right answer. When you pick the wrong answer, it will let you know what the correct answer is. So the key here in this study method that we're going with the app is you want to start remembering the correct answer. So as you get them wrong, which is okay, because you can take this test, the apps are free, and you can take the test over and over and over and over and over 10 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, however many times it takes you. So you don't have to start off getting 100%. And at the end of it, it will give you a percentage, because that's how DMV grades you, is a percentage. So you want to just kind of use common sense and start remembering the answers that you get wrong. Still remember the ones you got right, because you might have picked it and just by fluke you got that answer right. So but the key here is to start memorizing the correct answers as you go through. And the general knowledge on both of these, I think, have between like 150 and 200 questions, which I know it seems like a lot. I know that's what I was feeling. But what they're doing, what the app is doing is, you know, when you go to the DMV, and you probably noticed from taking your regular just driving Class C license, they have like 3 or 4, most states have like 3 or 4 versions of the written test. So what this app is doing, and CDL is the same way, they have multiple versions of the written test, and they're not going to ask you 150 questions when you go in to take your permit. They might only ask you like 40 general knowledge questions, but you never know which test you're going to get, which version A, B, C, D you're going to get. So the app is trying to prepare you for all the questions that you can possibly get. So no matter what, when you go in there, no matter what test they give you, that you will pass. So I know the 150 to 200 questions sounds like a lot, but don't let that throw you. And hopefully you're giving yourself ample time, so you have plenty of time, like you don't have to be under pressure studying. And this is why it's good to do this at home as well. And I'm kind of going to touch on that a little bit later. And I'm sorry that this video is already 17 minutes, but it's information, so I'm trying to talk as quick as possible but be as detailed as possible, so I don't really leave anything out. So forgive me 17 minutes in. So once you're taking the test, and you'll slowly, as you keep taking the test, you'll slowly see that you're improving and improving and improving, because you're starting to remember the right answers. This will also help you if you go to open up your DMV handbook, because then the questions that you're reading start to make sense with the stuff that you're reading on the page. So whereas when you first got the handbook and you flipped through it and kind of glanced at the different paragraphs, you didn't understand it, as you're doing these apps, you'll slowly start to get that, okay, this makes sense. I get what they're talking about now, because you're starting to retain the information that you have been learning through the app. And the app it's all teaching you the same information, but the way we work these days with the multiple choice and how we test out in school, and with things given to us one at a time versus a big old page of just jibble jabble words, the app just really makes it a lot easier to learn the information. But it's the same information on the app that is in the handbook. So once you start, however you learn, if you learn by reading a lot of words on one page at once, then that might be best for you. Most people, I find, like the app better, because it breaks it down question by question. Like you'll have question 1 and you'll pick A, B, C, D is the answer, and it takes you, instead of having a lot to look at once, because a lot to look at once can kind of be overwhelming when it shouldn't really be, and it doesn't have to be. The app simplifies it, and it helps you retain the information. Because it's broken down in sections, like if you're doing general knowledge and you're starting to get like, okay, 50-60%, and you're just tired of looking at the same questions, hop down to the tanker endorsement part and start going through those, see how you fare in those, or what your score is. And then once you're tired of looking at that, hop to the hazmat section. Once you're tired of looking at, hop back to general knowledge. Like you can keep going to different sections until you're starting to ace them all. And you'll find that it doesn't really, if you're kind of committed to it and spend so many minutes a day, like maybe give it 20-30 minutes a day, you can get through a few tests in that time. If you do that for a week to 10 days, 2 weeks, you'll really see the improvement from where you first started. Now, I wouldn't recommend using it and then waiting 2 weeks and then going back and trying to take the test, because you're not retaining. The information is so foreign to you that you're probably not going to retain a lot of it. Some stuff you will remember, but if you stick to it every day, I mean, some people go hard like me. I was doing it for like 2 hours a day, every day, until I got 100% on both apps in every single section. But even like 30 minutes a day, you will start to retain it, and it will build your confidence, because you're like, okay, I can do this. I can drive a truck. Okay, so, and I would recommend, before you go to take your permit, you want to be getting 100%. If you're using one app, get 100% a few times, not just like I got 100% one time and jet out to the DMV. Take the test a few times and get consistent 100% in each section, or at least each section that you want to test in when you get to the DMV. And like I said, I'm an overdoer, so I was getting 100% in all the sections on both apps, and I wasn't happy until that was happening. Now, as far as, yes, so let me pause there. So that's what I would suggest you do first. That's first things first, because you have to have your permit before anything else can happen. Hey guys, I forgot to state in my video that if you study using the CDL Prep on DMV Genie, at least one of those apps, and you're getting 100% consecutively, it will get you past the test when you actually go into DMV to take your permit test. The questions, or at least for California, I can say, so I'm pretty confident in telling you for all states, that the questions in those apps are really accurate to the questions that you're going to be asked when you actually go behind the computer at DMV to take your real permit test. So once you're getting 100% on those, you should be good to go and feel confident when you walk into DMV that you're going to pass your permit. Now, in the midst of doing all of that, like while you're studying and you're doing the apps and you're reading your book, try to start figuring out how you want to go about getting your CDL. Once you have your permit, how you want to go about getting your CDL. Are you interested in a company-sponsored CDL program or school? Or do you have the money to pay out of pocket to go to like a local school? That's usually about $4,500 to $5,500 is the average amount that I hear that the local schools are. Now, company-sponsored schools, I have not heard of one that doesn't do this. They will put you through school. Some of the companies actually like do schooling right there in their terminal. Like I said in the beginning, I drive for Prime. I went to Prime to get my CDL, and I went to the Salt Lake City terminal, and I actually reported to the terminal every day. They put me in a hotel, but I went to the terminal every day, and I got my CDL actually there at Prime on their campus. Some schools, like I hear Swift, I know if you're in certain states they have a terminal with the program, I believe, but a lot of the places that they hire from, they will actually send you to a school, a local school, where they're just paying out of pocket, so you're not actually at a Swift terminal. You're going to the school, you're staying in a hotel close to the school. I think Schneider does that. But the company is basically, it's called a company-based CDL program because the company is shelling out the money up front. They're not looking to you to pay for anything. But what almost every company, I have not heard of one that doesn't expect this, is they do expect you to stay with their company once you get your CDL for a certain period of time. Most of them are about a year. I've heard, I can't remember what company, but I heard one is like 16 months. I heard somebody tell me one is like 9 months. So it might be give or take a few months depending on what company it is. But for the most part, I think they're pretty much all around 12 months. They want you to stay with them because they're paying this money and time for you to go to school. So they want to get something out of it as well. Now, because they don't have lock and chains on you, they can't force you to stay with them for a year. We'll just say a year. But if you leave them, most of these companies will turn around and they'll charge you for whatever they deem the cost is, or like if they send you to like with Prime. I'll speak to Prime because that's what I know. Prime is like $4,700, I believe, or $4,750. So if you leave Prime before your 12 months is up, your obligated time that you signed a contract to, then they will charge you that $4,700. And if you don't have it to pay, I think what I hear from Prime at least is some people don't get charged if you stay like 11 months and you've been pretty cool, you haven't given them any trouble. They'll kind of just waive that last month. I know a couple people who have left like 2 months in and they did get charged that, but Prime was like, you know, we'll set up a payment arrangement so it never hits your credit, and if you just outright don't pay, they might put it on your credit. Now, I fulfilled my year, so I don't have that experience part of it to like say this is exactly what they do, but from hearsay, that's at least for Prime. I imagine that other companies are just like that, where they, if you've been cool with them, they will probably set up a payment plan where they never report it to a credit bureau, or maybe they just threaten reporting it to a credit bureau and never actually do. I don't know. But you want to kind of, unless like you're going to a company like CR England or something, which pays really crappy, and you're just using it as a last resort to get your license, and you know you're not going to stay there, you want to kind of pick a company, if that's the route you're going, is company sponsored school. You want to pick a company that you think you'll be happy with to at least fulfill your obligation with them, if that makes any sense. So what you want to do and remember, all of this, kind of thinking about all of this, is in the midst of while you're studying for your permit. And why I say that is because depending on the company, depending on the state you're going, like say you chose a company and they have campuses in 3 states. Not every state is going to accept, like if you walk into the DMV in your state, I'm going to use me for example, in California, I walk into the DMV, take my permit test, say Prime sent me to their campus in Missouri, in Springfield. Well, my permit that I took in California would do me zilch going to Missouri, because Missouri does not accept out-of-state permits. So I would turn around, I would have spent the money to take my permit test at DMV and all the time studying the California regulations or laws or whatever you want to call it, and I would have got to Missouri and I would have had to turn around and study their handbook, which is pretty much going to be really similar. I mean, across all states, most of the laws are the same, but there are a few nuances. So I would have had to go through the apps and stuff under Missouri as my state and study their handbook. And then I would have still had to go into DMV in Missouri and take the permit test. So while you're studying, like, I don't want to say that to negate you from actually studying the test before you have figured out where you're going to go, because like I said, most states and most of that 150 to 200 questions are going to be pretty across the board, no matter what state you're at or going to take your test. So you want to go ahead and study, because that's giving you information and you're starting to retain stuff. But hold off on going to take your permit test until you've decided how you want to get your CDL. Now, if it's a local school, then, I mean, you're going to school locally, so go ahead and go into DMV and take your permit test, because you're going to school in the same, you're going to be getting your CDL in the same state that you took your permit test. So that kind of goes hand in hand. The thing is, if you're wanting to go to a company sponsored school, because they might actually, and the likelihood of it is they're going to send you out of state to another state, wherever their campus is or their school is, to go through your training, your behind the wheel training and all of that. So depending on what state you're going to, that state may or may not accept your state's permit. So I just say this to because like for me, I paid $77 in California to take my permit, and all my endorsements, like they didn't charge extra per endorsement. It was just $77. You take all of the endorsements you want. You don't have to take any of them, but regardless, it's this set fee of $77. But if I you know, don't waste your money going to DMV if you're going to have to turn around and do it again in another state. So that's the only reason I say continue to study, and go ahead and study your state. And like once you get on the phone and say you choose Prime and they say, okay, you're going to be going to the Missouri campus. Well, then you haven't went and took your permit yet. So you haven't shelled out any money. And you're able to switch the app. Just go from like California and now start studying Missouri, and you'll see that the questions are almost identical. There might be like 5 questions out of all those questions that change up a little bit because you changed the state. But definitely don't wait to study. I mean, you can wait to study till you know where you're going. But I would say the earlier you can study, the better off you'll be. So that's my, I'm trying to think if I left anything out. And what I'm going to do is there's quite a few companies that have company sponsored CDL programs. I'm going to be putting screenshots of some of those companies here, about 15 to 20. I'm sure that there's probably a lot more than that, but these are the ones that I could easily find. Excuse me. And I found all of these on truckingtruth.com, which I will put down here just so if anybody wants to go to that website, they have really detailed information on each company. Like it tells what their hiring age is, what states they hire from, different things, like little things that you might need to know or want to know to help you narrow down, like these are the 5 companies that I really want. And what I would suggest also is to start, like once you start kind of looking at companies and reading information, questions will pop in your head of, I wonder if this, I wonder if that. Get yourself a notepad, write down your different questions. And once you kind of have like maybe 5, I mean, some people might want to call millions of recruiters. I wasn't one of those people. I narrowed my 3 companies that I wanted down. But once you have, like, pick a number and try to, out of all these companies that you'll see, try to decide that I'm kind of, and after going to the website, because like I said, they have a lot of information on these companies that might, before you even waste your time calling a recruiter or waiting for a phone call back, this website might actually go ahead and make that a plus company for you or knock it out the park. Because like it'll tell you this company does not only hires from the Northeast. And if you live in California, okay, well that company is not even on my list anymore. So it'll be able to kind of narrow it down for you. But once you have like a handful of companies that you're really interested in, you've read the website, you've seen the information, then start putting out calls to recruiters. You don't have to wait until, you know, like a week before you go to a school or you're ready to go to a school to actually reach out to a recruiter and start talking to them. Now you do want to kind of also be thinking about this and kind of have a date range of when you might be ready to actually go to school. Like say it's April right now. I think it's April 3rd. Yes, it is. It's Wednesday. So it's April right now. So you might say, okay, well, I'm not going to be ready till like my kid's out of school mid-June and he can go stay with his dad. So I'm going to be ready to come to school mid-June. Well, just because it's April, it's not too early. Like once you have your handful of companies that you know you're interested in, start calling them. And, you know, the recruiter will ask, when are you ready to come in? You know, when would you be ready? But that way you can get all of your questions that you've written on your handy dandy little notepad. You can get all your questions answered from those companies. And just by the response you get, the feel you get back from that company, if they're pushy, if they're not, that might even narrow your search down even further, because you're like, okay, I talked to this lady and I wasn't feeling what she was talking about, you know, and just having those conversations. I mean, you can wait a week before you are ready to go to school to make the phone call, because they love that when you're like, I'm ready, send me a ticket, I'll be there next Monday, because they will try to push your stuff through. So don't think that it's like ever a too late situation, but you're doing yourself the best service if you're ahead of the game early in the game. You know, so that's also something to consider. I'm just trying to think of what else I might be missing, because I feel like there is something, but I can't think of it right now. I kind of thought about doing this video going live, but I don't really go live a lot, so I'm not sure if there's like a good time to go live or a good day of the week. If this is something that a lot of people have questions about, like I would definitely be willing to do a live stream and try to answer your questions in real time. If you have questions where if I haven't touched on anything or answered anything, definitely feel free to send me an email, and I will respond back trying to answer that specific thing. But yeah, I've talked about recruiters and all of that stuff. So yeah, I think I've pretty much covered. Oh, if you want to go to a local program, if you're a vet, I think that you can use the GI Bill. From what I hear, I'm not a vet, but I've heard other people talking about it, where you can use the GI Bill to pay for going to a local school. And some JCs and community colleges still offer trucking, commercial trucking programs. So, and they're usually a lot cheaper than like the local, just on their own type school. Maybe by $1,000, $1,500 cheaper than if you go to like a private school. And when I say private, I mean like Desiree's Trucking Company, learn how to get your CDL, that type of school. If you go through a community college or a JC, they're a little bit cheaper. Not all states and counties and stuff, their JCs or community colleges, whatever they're called, where you're at, they don't all offer them, and they're getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. But if you happen to live in a place that does have them, now the training usually is a little bit longer. Like most of the local companies, they'll like from start to finish, you'll be in and out in about a month, like 4 weeks. As I called around to different places, that's usually the time frame that. And then some of these trucking CDL schools is like 2 weeks, and like Prime has one of the longest but a very thorough program from start to finish. I mean, you'll have your CDL in about a month, but to get on your truck and be solo, it's about 3 months. But some of the community colleges and the junior colleges, they're a little bit longer than the local programs, maybe 6 to 8 weeks. So if time frame is something for you, that might be also something to consider putting on your notepad when you call recruiters. Ask them what the time frame is of, if you need to do something in a certain amount of time. So everybody's going to have different questions that are important to them for a company to have or not have. So that's why I don't really have like this list of questions to give you to ask, because everybody has different things that are important to them. So just kind of be thorough in your own head and think about what's important to you in a company or in a school program. Maybe how they teach. Am I going to be sitting in the classroom? Am I going to actually be out in a lot on a truck? Like, how many people are in my class going to be in the class with me? How many instructors is it to how many students? If you learn in big groups, well, that might work for you. If you require, like, you learn in 5 people or less groups, then that'll knock certain places out, because they'll tell you to have a 1-to-30 ratio, 1 instructor to 30 students. So all of those things, but it all depends on you as a person and how you learn, what's important to you again. So be mindful when you're thinking about the questions. And if you miss any questions, and call the recruiter back. But like, remember that when you're going to school, this is for you. Like, the recruiter might try to push you in, like, and nobody at Prime was pushy for me. When I called Swift, that lady was a little bit pushy. But if the recruiter tries to push you into a decision, or, wipe a question under, like where you asked maybe 5 questions because you were excited when you first got on the phone, and she only answered 3, and you didn't realize until you hung the phone up, and you're like, but wait, she didn't tell me if pets were allowed on the truck once I get my own truck. Call them back, or a lot of them will give you their email. Email them back. Get all your questions answered. Don't wait till you get somewhere where they've already shelled out money for a plane ticket or a bus ticket. Most of them will bus you out. Don't expect a plane, but you might get one. But call them back. Make sure that you get all your questions answered, because when you come out here, this is time away from your family. It's a new experience. You're going to kind of be overwhelmed. You're going to be nervous. You're going to be partially excited. But this is about you, not the recruiter. Not because she needs to get off the phone because she has other people holding, or he or whatever. This is about you. So make sure that you're making the right decision, because you're the one that's going to be out in some state, at a place, going through this, where you're going to meet people and make friends, but you're going to be at this alone. And like, this is your future that you're coming out here to make better, whether it's because you've heard about how much money can be made in trucking, which it can be, or you are more interested in seeing the country. But whatever it is, and whichever school you choose, what is the saying? Like, you're only as good as something. But you're only, if you like choose a quickie school, you might not learn as much as you need to be a safe driver. So you're going to have to learn those little things on your own once you're out here. Or if you go to a school that might sound like 3 months is forever, but you're spending 30,000 miles on a trainer's truck after you get your license. You're going to so many shippers and receivers that you're going to be sick of it. You're filling out Qualcomm till you're sick of it. You're hopefully trip planning until you're sick of it. So by the time you're out there on your own, you have a lot of experience where you were able to make mistakes when there was somebody right there to correct you. So the mistake wasn't too big, hopefully. So, just keep in mind that this is about you. So if you want a quickie job, just be prepared to be out here and kind of be looking at people like, I'm not really sure how to do this. But whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because it's your life, so I'm not judging, but just kind of think of it like that this is going to be a career. It's going to be a way of life once you're out here and you're past all the training phases and you have your license in your hand. They hand you the keys to a truck and give you your first load. You're out here by yourself, unless you decide to team drive, then whatever. But but you're going to be out here by yourself, expected to know everything that every other trucker knows. So just keep that in mind, that this is your career. You want to do it right, because if you make mistakes, you can get your CDL revoked or suspended. You don't want to go through that because you spent all this time trying to get your CDL. So just some things to think about. Sorry that I'm rambling, but I don't really talk about this subject in my videos. So I just want to make sure that I'm kind of putting little food for thought in your mind, because so many people want to go to the school that gets them done quicker so they can be in their own truck. And that's all fine and dandy. It's a great feeling when you're in your own truck. But when you're thrown in a truck and you are told to go to A, pick up this, and then take it to B, and you don't even know how to fill out Qualcomm, you don't know how to manage your time, you're not even sure how to read an atlas, because you went to somewhere that they just pumped you through like you're a number. They just put you through, and yeah, she passed, and you're out here and you're stuck. That's not a good feeling. I don't know that per se, because I was soaking in everything. Y'all can tell how I'm detail oriented. I'm soaking in everything and asking questions that I don't even need to probably be asking, but I'm asking anyways. But you don't want to be out here and feeling stuck, because that's gonna send your confidence down the drain, and ain't nobody got time for that. You want to come out here and be confident, like, I got this, I could do this. I'll take a little bit of help, but I really don't need your help. But if you got some advice, I'll take it. But you want to be confident in what you're doing, because this is a big piece of metal that you are rolling down the road. It can hurt somebody, kill somebody, or yourself, or it can be a blessing and make you a lot of money, just depending on how serious you take it. So this beginning stage, when you are trying to get your CDL, take this part serious. I'm going to kind of let it go at that. I hope everybody has a beautiful day, and my email will be down below in the description. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And I'm trying to think, a few people have asked me about Prime. I don't really want to add it to the end of this video, because this video is kind of an overall, it's not really Prime related. I was just speaking a lot about Prime because that's where I went and that's what I know. But my advice goes to regardless, Prime or not Prime. So I think I will make a separate video about coming to Prime and what you need to come to Prime. But I'll talk to you guys later.